Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Bossing, this is English 111, and we've got a lot to do this semester, so I'm going to dive right in with this short introductory video, and then we'll move on. I want to talk a couple minutes about what this class is, and also what it isn't. First off, what this class is, what English 111 is, really, is the class almost everyone has to take, and almost no one really wants to take it, right? I've been teaching this class for over 20 years at 5 different universities and colleges in my career. And almost every student at those universities and colleges has to take a class like this, right? Freshman composition, English 111, whatever you call it. But almost no one wants to take it. And if you think about it, I didn't want to take it, right? And I was an English major. Who wants to be in a class where someone gives you an assignment, a topic, and gives you a deadline, and you know you're going to be judged on the product, right? The paper you produce. Man, that's tough. I'd much rather take a standardized fill-in-the-bubble test, right? And then forget whatever the subject matter was. This is something different, and it's something hard. It's hard to carve out time and place and sit at your desk and translate what's up in your head down through your fingers and put it in words on the screen. That very act of creation is hard, right? I'm a writer, right? I'm a teacher, but also a writer. I'm working on a novel right now. And it's hard for me to sit down at my desk and write. And I'm choosing to do it. I want to do it. But the act of shutting everything else out and translating my ideas into words on the screen and then go back and revise them until they are better and they're expressing my ideas more clearly than they did the first time. That's a process. And that's what this class is, a process. But it's not one that's easy. I'd much rather be in the next room watching Netflix or outside with my dogs than writing, right? So why? Why does every college and university have a class like this one that almost everyone has to take? And I think it's because language is so important, right? Regardless of your major, right? You don't have to be an English major to get this, right? You could be a nursing major, psychology major, computer science major. I promise you this, whatever classes you take in the future after this semester, you're going to be writing. Now, it may be papers, it may be a lab report, it may be a PowerPoint presentation, it may be just emails. You're going to be writing in almost every class. And when you're done with school and you're off in your careers, you're going to be writing then too in a lot of those careers. And unless your future professors and future bosses are mind readers, they don't have access to your brilliant ideas and your creativity and your problem-solving skills. The only way they have access to that is through your use of language. And that's what we're working on. Basically, that's what this class is devoted to, right? It's a practice. Just like any practice, right? Just like basketball practice or play practice or band practice or yoga practice, right? Anything that you develop a set of skills and then through repetition improve those skills so that whatever the outcome you're looking for, whether it's being your best as a player on the court or your best performance on stage or your best ability to merge mind and spirit and body in yoga, right? The ritual of coming every set time, right? 3 times a week or every day or whatever for that practice. To practice this set of skills so you improve on performance, that's what this is, right? Instead of thinking about this being a writing class, think about it as a writing practice, something that you create a habit for over and over again. Practicing the writing process. That's what this class is devoted to working on that set of skills. And also introducing you to a certain set of standards, right? I don't know what your English classes were like in high school, right? I know, like, no offense to high school English classes, but I know with my kids who just got through high school English recently, man, sometimes class was sitting there and watching a video, or a lot of classes were devoted to passing a standardized test, right? And that's fine, whatever. But that's didn't really prepare them for the kind of writing they had to do in college classes. So part of this class is just to practice a set of writing skills that will serve you well in the future as a student and as a professional. The other part is really, and it's just as important, is for me to say, look, here's the standards. Here's what's going to be expected of you in your writing in future. Classes in college, there's a certain standard, and maybe you have to up your standards. What got you through high school English may not get you through college English, right? And that's true. That's just true. I know my kids didn't have to work very hard in high school in their English classes. And then when they got to college, they were like, oh my God, I have to write how many papers and how many pages for each paper? Yeah. So what part of my job is to be kind of like that basketball coach or that play director or that yoga instructor and say, let me help you develop this set of skills. The other part is just to be like, let me tell you what the standards for being a student at the college level is. Yeah, that's how I see my role, right? As kind of part coach, part instructor, and part just letting you know, like being your ally, letting you know what the standards are. And more importantly, how to get you to those standards, right? How you can up your game if it needs to be upped, so you take English 111 and move on to bigger and better things, right? If you think about it, the goals for this class, when you look at the syllabus, and if you haven't yet, I'm going to encourage you to look at the syllabus for the class. It has a whole lot of information about outcomes, course outcomes. But if you think about it, it boils down to two things, and they're in the title of the course, right? Writing and inquiry. My goal for you is A, pass the class, so you never have to see this face again, and you can move on to bigger and better, right? That's the number one goal. But the other goals are this: writing, practice, clear, organized writing. Because that writing skill is going to serve you on the road, down the road. The other thing is the inquiry part, right? Thinking critically. A lot of what we're going to be doing is looking at how other people write, looking at kind of complex text and pulling information out of it and incorporating it into our own writing. That's a pretty complicated skill. Activity, but you're going to be using it over and over again in college. So I want to practice that. So really, clear writing and critical thinking, that's it. And if this class is nothing other than practicing those two things for 4 months, you're going to be better off for it. You're going to be a better writer at the end of this semester than you are right now. And if that's true, it's all good, right? If nothing else, if this class is just me giving you feedback on the writing that you give me, so you can improve for the next paper and the next paper and the next semester and the next semester, man, I'll be happy. I'll feel like I got my job done, that I did you right. That's what the class is for me. What it is not is like a lot of other classes, right? This is not a class where you'll be kicking back and watching recorded lectures or watching a bunch of PowerPoints, because those are the kind of classes I didn't like when I was a student. Bored me to tears, right? And frankly, that's not what you need, right? Some classes you have to have that, right? A math class, chemistry class, computer science, right? If the format, if the dynamic of that class is I've got information up here and it needs to flow in one direction into your brain, right? If I've got a mathematical equation or a coding language that I have to get out of my brain and into your brain, that kind of one-way flow of information, fine. I mean, it is what it is. And the format of the class helps with that. But for this class, it's not content-oriented. You're not learning equations or codes, right? You're practicing skills. So the flow of information is much more multi-directional, right? It's not just me trying to get this information to you and you kind of kicking back in the last row of the class, right? And being passive. You can't be successful in this class and be passive, right? And just take a test and then forget about it. All right, this is a set of skills that you're building as the semester goes. The other thing, it's not a weed out class, right? It's not one of those classes that everybody has to take because the college is going to divide people who have it and people who don't have it. If you're here, if you're listening to this video and you're enrolled in English 111, you belong here. Whether you're in high school right now, whether you've been out of school for years and you're diving back in, you're coming in on day one with a certain set of skills, right? And this isn't about deciding who's got it and who doesn't. My philosophy is we all have it. Sometimes we got to practice it, right? Sometimes we have to set ourselves up through ritual and practice and exercise to up our game so we can move on, pass this class and move on to the next ones, right? Sometimes that's easy. Sometimes you got it on day one and I'm just giving you a little useful feedback to send you on your way. Whatever the scenario is, you're right where you belong. Right now, you've got the skills to be successful in this class. You're probably going to have to apply those skills in ways maybe you're not used to from your high school English. And that's all right. That's what college is. To take what you've got and enhance it and refine it and improve it and take off to bigger and better, right? I'll always be honest with you, except for this first week, right? I'm going to lie to you once. I'm giving you the heads up. On the discussion board for this week, I've lied to you once. But after this week, I'm going to be honest with you, even if that hurts, right? Even if I'm telling you something honestly that you don't want to hear, right? When you get that first paper back, and it's got a grade that you're not used to seeing in the English classes you've taken before, that's not going to feel good, right? But I'm not going to lie to you, right? I'm not going to give you the illusion that your skill set is where it needs to be successful in college. That's doing you no favors, right? That's professional malpractice on my part. If I'm like, oh yeah, don't worry about this. That's a great paper. If it's not a great paper, man, if it is a great paper, you'll know it. I will praise the work that you put into it. If it's not yet up to college standards, I'm going to tell you that. And I'm going to tell you why, right? Why it's not up to meeting the standards for college. And best of all, I'm going to tell you how to fix it, so that on the next paper, it will be up to standards if you put in the time and effort. That's my job, just to be honest with you, right? So that's how I see what this class is and what it isn't. What the class also is online, right? I've been teaching for over 20 years. And for over 20 years, teaching English for me has been going to a classroom with a group of people and working on making them better writers and better readers and better students, regardless of their majors. I'm not so used to doing this, right, where we're all in different places. We're not meeting together as a group. And I think there's advantages and disadvantages for this format, for this fully online format. I think the disadvantages can be this, right, that there's no set schedule for you, right? If you're in a seated class, you get into the practice, the ritual of driving up to a campus 3 times a week or twice a week or whatever, and you know you're going to be at a specific time and place with a certain group of people and this instructor, and there's a certain kind of habit that builds up pretty quickly, right? Which is good. That we need that, right? To be successful as a student or to be successful in anything, having those kinds of habits that push you towards success is really important. But we don't have that with fully online, right? You don't have like 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 o'clock. I'm walking into this classroom and Dr. Bossing's up at the front of the room reminding me to get work in, talking about the next set of deadlines. I don't get to see people I know, and we can all complain about Dr. Bossing giving us a bunch of deadlines, right? You don't have that. So a lot of it falls on you, right? A lot of that setting up the practice, setting up the habits falls more on you in an online class. And I encourage you to do that. Set your own schedule for whatever works for you. Don't let things slide, right? Go to Blackboard at least twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, to check grades, to check announcements, to check on assignments, right? That has to come from you, because I'm not going to be like in the classroom or knocking on your front door 3 times a week to remind you to do stuff, right? I'll be shooting you emails, so check your emails. But it's really important for you to be kind of self-driven and self-focused. A lot of it's on you, yourself, for your success. The great advantage of an online course is that there's flexibility. You don't have to drive up to campus 3 times a week, right? You can fit your work that you do for this class into your other schedules, right? Your work schedule, family schedule, life schedule, right? You never have to get out of bed. You can stay in your pajamas and write your papers up if that works for you. So that flexibility is good. That's the great advantage in my mind of this class, which means I've set it up so that it's asynchronous, which means you don't have to log in at a certain time to have like a team meeting. That's synchronous instruction, right? We're all coming together as a class at a certain time, 2 or 3 times a week. I don't want to do that because that takes away the advantage, the great advantage of, in my mind, of an online course, which is the flexibility. I see why other classes do have you meeting virtually, and that's great because there is a power in the group dynamic. But I think for me, and hopefully for you, this kind of more working at your own pace and working with me more one-on-one is the great advantage of this, doing it this way, of an asynchronous. You still need to turn stuff in every week, right? So the folders are set up in our Blackboard site where you have lessons and assignments and things to turn in on a weekly basis. But within that week, you do it when it works best for you. As long as you hit that midnight deadline, you're good. So you've got several jobs this week, right? And if you're in the week 1 folder, you can look down and see The jobs are basically that I want you to look over the syllabus, and I know you have to do that for every class, and it's a pain to do. When I first started teaching, like the syllabus was maybe 2 pages, 3 pages. But now there's like layers of information, right? And every syllabus you look at Wake Tech, there's 3 parts. The first part is the part that Wake Tech, the college, has. And it has useful information, right? About its policies and its objectives and certain resources that are super useful. I'll be sending out an announcement about that kind of stuff. And I'll really be strongly encouraging you to use those student resource centers, right? Particularly the ILC, which is the Individualized Learning Center, and the Virtual Real Center. Both those places are where you can submit your work. If you're, when you start working on paper number 1 for this class and you're working on your rough draft, you can turn that rough draft in and get feedback before you're turning it into me for a grade, right? I'll give you lots of feedback, but that feedback's going to be attached to a grade, right? In my mind, it's much better to get feedback early in the process before there's a grade attached to it. So you still have time to work on the weak parts and pump up the parts that are already strong, make them even stronger, right? Every paper, every kind of writing has its strengths and weaknesses. My goal for you is to get really good at the strengths and work on fixing the weaknesses, right? So that you're turning in work at the end of the semester that's the best work you're capable of doing. So I encourage that. The second part of the syllabus is from the English department, right? The kind of like, here are our basic requirements for every section of English 111. The third part is the part I've written. It's the instructor section. And I definitely want you to take a look at that, right? It has the information that's most relevant to this particular section of English 111. We've got 2 textbooks for this class. One is this, creatively called the Wake Tech English 111 Reader. And this is a collection of mostly essays that do the kind of writing I'm going to be asking us to do this semester. So why not look at professional writers and see how they put together a personal narrative or a comparison contrast essay or a problem solution discussion, right? Why not look and see how they do it, figure out what they're doing, what's successful about their writing, and emulate it, right? So we'll be using this right away. However, if you've ordered the textbooks and they're not in right away, the first reading, which is this amazing short story by Alice Walker called Everyday Use. I love it so much. That's the first reading, the only reading for this week from one of the books. On our Blackboard site, in the Week 1 Lessons folder, I have a link to that short story. So even if you don't have this book yet, you can still read Alice Walker's story and write about it. But you will need this starting week 2. We'll need it right away. The other book is this, Rules for Writers. This is basically a kind of handbook about grammar and all the kind of mechanics, the sentence level mechanics, but also a description of like the writing process, how to start with like pre-writing invention exercises, rough draft, editing, proofreading, all of that stuff. And a ton of stuff about modern language association rules for how to put an academic paper together. All of that's in here. We'll be using this too, not in the first week, but I think we have a reading from it in the second week. And it's going to be kind of our go-to resource for a lot of like the rules for how to put an academic paper together. So we'll get to those. Pick those up if you don't have them yet. Get them by the end of the first week if you can. So look at the syllabus. sign the acknowledgments agreement, which is basically just an agreement between the two of us that you understand what's expected of you from the class. I like to do that. It's not like a legal document or anything, but it is a way for me to kind of boil down that 20 pages of syllabus into 10 expectations, both for you and for me, so that you're not surprised, basically. You don't get frustrated halfway through the semester when something goes wrong, or you expected the class to be one way and I expect it to be a different way. This is for us a document that basically just like we're in agreement on here's what the expectations for the class are. So I want you to sign that and submit it. I want you to post to the discussion board, and I know that it's kind of a cheesy breaking the ice kind of thing that you have to do in every class. It's probably easier to do it online than it is to do it in real time in a face-to-face class when you're feeling like, oh, why do I have to talk about myself to a room full of strangers? So this is bad and cheesy. Doing it that way is probably even worse. I encourage you to kind of humor the old guy that's teaching the class and play along with this particular discussion board. And finally, there's a journal that I'm going to ask you to write based on your reading, your understanding of the short story Everyday Use. That's what's due for the first week. In terms of communication, of us communicating, I'll be posting videos throughout the semester. I'll be sending announcements to Blackboard, which will also be emailed to you throughout the semester. I have office hours throughout the semester where we can meet using Team, right? All your classes will have a Team space, so you can call me through there. Or we can, if you've got a camera, we can talk face-to-face. Or you can shoot me an email during office hours and you'll know I'll get right back to you. My office hours are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 2 o'clock in the afternoon to like 3:15. I'll be sitting right here those 4 days every week. So that's a good time for us to have some like in real life interaction. I'll also be shooting you emails, and you can email me with any question and I'll get back to you within 24 hours. This is important, right? Especially with an online section. Communication. Don't just let things slide. Don't just be confused because you don't want to send an email and not sound smart, right? What's smart is having a question and finding out the answer, right? And the same for me. Sometimes you'll send me an email and I won't know the answer, but man, I'll find out and get back to you. That's what's smart, is communication, especially when you're somewhere and I'm sitting at my office and we don't get to see each other face-to-face 2 or 3 times a week. We have to have those communication lines open for this class to be successful. Okay, that's all I've got for this week, and I talked too much, I know. I'll do better for the next video. So work hard, be kind, especially to yourself in this first week. I'll see you back here soon. All right, take care.